Got my skate rag. Hell yeah.
Japini Pablo on?
Yeah, I'm about to be up in there like.
Alright, here we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, self-care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today we're going to talk about different lifestyles. I'm Lady Bounce.
I'm Kryptonite.
So where do you want to start with this?
Okay, this is interesting, right?
It is.
All right. So I'll start off by saying that sexual abuse is real.
Yes.
And it happens to a lot of us. And a lot of us are reluctant to talk about it in our relationships and with one another or with family, friends, whatever. But I think it's more of an issue for specifically African American men, for black men, to have a discussion about sexual abuse that has happened to them in their past, in their childhood, and how that carries on and accompanies them into adulthood, and how they deal with relationships with women and men, but I think more specifically with women. There was a post I had put up. It was a Facebook situation, and the question basically was like, if your spouse came to you like he's great in every aspect, the relationship is good, it's going well, everything is good, he's pretty much the guy, you really like him right now, there's no red flags, but he comes to you and he says to you, I have a way, I was sexually abused in my past and by someone that I cared about, a man that I loved and I respected, and he took advantage of me sexually, but that's an experience that I want though. Like, I don't want to have sex with a man, I have no interest in being with a man, but I want that experience, that penetration, that, would you be willing to say, wear a strap-on, or would you be willing to have that experience with me? How many women would be willing to embrace that possibility, that thought? How many women would go that extra mile for their significant other? And there were a whole lot of no's. There was a lot more no's than there were. And then I'm not even going to tell you that I got a whole lot of yeses. I think I maybe got 2 or 3. Like, I would pursue it. I would, try and help him. We would seek counseling, and I would try and satisfy him and blah,
Wait, why we gotta go to therapy? Because I want to try something else.
Well, no, because the therapy was more for the sexual abuse. Which, of course, yes, that should be something that you do.
Right.
But does it erase the fact that he still wants that experience? Just because you went to counseling and because he talked about it at counseling, does that still negate the fact that that is still something that he wants to experience in his sex life? Does that take that away just because he goes to counseling? I say not. All right, so here we have a mindful moment. Now here we go.
Okay.
Under suspension, I allow my mind to move out of its habitual grooves by suspending my belief in the old ways of being. I give myself room to try something genuinely new. The mind has certain habitual pathways that restrain thought. In order to go down a new path in life, it becomes necessary to move out of the customary thought patterns. Meditations and mindfulness, mantra practice, and ritual worship help to move the mind out of its repetitive grooves and into a new pattern, one that is open to the possibility for positive change. This reset happens by putting the old patterns of thought under suspension to interrupt the habitual ways, if only for a few minutes or a few hours. That little separation gives enough respite for a new pattern to emerge. As you sit here in the quiet, notice the thoughts. See the ones that arise out of season and out of context, that are not applicable to this present moment. See the familiar grievances arise, the thoughts of enmity that have arisen for you time and time again. As you watch the thoughts emerge, put them under suspension. Do not buy into them, but simply let them float there in the mental space. This is definitely a thought that I believe needs to float around in mental space for a little while.
Yes, it definitely needs to.
Because it's definitely different. It's definitely a new thought, because we always equate that any man that wants to have any type of sexual interaction of being penetrated or wanting to penetrate another man, that is a homosexual act. You're not, as far as being a man, you're not bisexual. You're either homosexual or you're straight. There is no two ways about it. You can't. It's not like with women. With women, when you break it down, it's a man's world. So a man, yes, two women, yay, let's do this.
Right.
But no guy is admitting to wanting to be with another man and a woman at the same. Not in the aspect where he's enjoying another man physically,
because they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
See, if I go to a party today and I get super, super drunk and I throw some girl up against the wall and I start tonguing her down and rubbing on her, it's a whole audience, right?
Yeah.
But if Timmy did the same thing,
it's an audience.
It's an audience,
but it's not good.
They're not cheering.
They're not cheering. Yeah, they're not cheering him on.
So does that speak to the double standard that exists already in sex?
Yeah.
I can sleep with 100 guys and that makes me a whole. But a guy can go sleep with 1,000 women and he's the man.
Right.
So then when it comes to something that's different, like wanting to have a different kind of sexual experience, it automatically becomes negative. But why?
Because it's not the norm. It's like, okay, like how long did it take before threesomes became a norm? Because think about it. There was a time threesomes weren't the norm.
No.
Like you couldn't be out there like, I like women too, or
Right.
I mean, there was a time that there was a stigma put with that, but it's more acceptable because it's two women catering to one man.
Right.
So it's more acceptable now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's a lot of people that have decided in adulthood that this is something that they're open to and something that they're willing to try. But a man dare not say that.
Right. And I think that's because in our country, in the United States, sex is such this taboo thing. We don't talk about it. We don't explore it. We're not allowed to. And anything that's outside of a man and a woman in a missionary position is sexual deviance.
Right.
And so with no one wanting to be thought of as sexually deviant or bad or you're going to hell because you like this or you like that, we shun it, we hide it, and then we get this existence of these down low men who, enjoy the company sexually of another man, which there's nothing wrong with that. My only issue with it is when they become risky with the behaviors. Like, you can like who you like, you can do what you do, but you need to do it safely. And I also think that if you are, dating women, you kind of have a responsibility to be
you
like,
should tell.
yo,
most definitely that should be something that
I like Robert and Robin.
And that should be something that should be spoken on. And then, but we are so conditioned that's just taboo. That's just no. If you want me to do that, then you're just gay, and I'm just not going to be. Because it's a new concept. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna lie. I'm not open. Like no, I mean for real. Like it's. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna be like I say that I'm completely against it.
Right.
I'm gonna say that it's something that I really we have to really think about this. We have to really talk about where where's our relationship really going?
Right.
What we really doing? I mean, because and then when you think about it, it really is. It's a new experience. It's a new experience, but it is just as new experience for the female as it is.
I guess
for the man, it wouldn't be a new experience if it's what he wants, because obviously he did it before.
And maybe he didn't do it before. Maybe he wants to. Maybe it's a new feeling. Now, aside from a guy who has, like you said before, been sexually abused and has had that experience, or has been to jail and has had that experience.
Well, we didn't talk about that. That was off so we should expand on that now that you've mentioned
well, no, I mentioned
Let's talk about it.
But hold on, put a fork in that one.
Okay.
For a minute. I think the difference, far as a woman, far as what you were saying about being okay with it or not being okay with it, I think a big piece of it depends on the level of your relationship. If it's a boyfriend, you're going to be like, man, you better beat it, clown. But say you've been married to that man for 15, 20 years.
Exactly. Now, there that is, too. Like, say you find out, like, maybe you didn't know. For the past 15, 13, whatever years that your husband had been sexually molested as a child. Mm-hmm. And I just watched the show of Iyanla Fix My Life, where this couple is going to her for therapy because he has cheated on her outside of their relationship. He's cheated with 5 different men. Wow. He found men on Craigslist. He said he was standing in the line at a store purchasing something, and the guy in front of him just gave him his number. Like, he just picked up on a vine and gave him his number. And dude was like, eventually I did call him.
Now, had he ever been to jail before?
I don't know about that. I don't believe so. I believe his situation is because he was molested as a child, and I think that had something to do with it. But to be quite honest with you, I really didn't get that part. I didn't get that part as to where the interest with men came from. Just so much that he didn't want to lose his wife and he didn't want to lose his marriage. Right. And he knew he couldn't be straightforward with it. And just the way he used to meet these people. I mean, there's got to be something else that we. Okay. So here we go. Mm-hmm. We have men that can't come out and say, "Hey, I've been sexually abused. I've been traumatized by this, and this is where I'm at with it." Okay? Then you have men that have been incarcerated before.
Yes.
And maybe they were raped, or maybe they were put in a situation where they felt like they would be raped if they didn't comply. Because let's face it, a lot of our men, they end up going to jail at an early age. Mm-hmm. You start off, you know what I'm saying? You do 3 or 4 years, or you do however many years you do. You're in close proximity to a lot of men. You're going to see things. You're going to experience things. Things are going to happen. So what if you do find yourself in a situation where maybe neither one of you necessarily identify as gay, but you have an experience with one another. Right. Still not gay. You just had this moment. Right. In this moment, you just had this experience, and you felt what you felt. But you still felt it, and it was pleasurable. Regardless, it was still pleasurable. Right. So you can't dismiss that. Like, just because you came out of jail, right? You can try, but you don't necessarily. Now, maybe you can go on for the rest of your life, and you good, and you don't ever need to have that experience again. Or maybe you do what a lot of men are doing, and you're on the DL, and you find yourself on Craigslist or in a grocery store taking numbers from complete strangers and calling them in, and you know what I'm saying? Right. So is it so wrong as a woman to want to be so in tune with your man on that level, sexually, mentally? Because it's not just a sexual thing; it's also a mental thing.
It is indeed. Because as a woman, I would dare say, one of the reasons for women saying no and not being open to it is because we already have so many self-esteem issues as it is, and we have our own, self-consciousness about our bodies or about our sexual skill. So for my man to come to me and say, I want this alternative sexual experience, my mind is immediately going to go to, oh my God, I'm not satisfying him. Oh my God, I'm not enough. My body's not this, my body's not that. And in fact, it really doesn't have anything to do with me. It has everything to do with him and how he's feeling. But humans don't operate like that.
But then you're not all the way wrong, because the fact of the matter is you're not satisfying him. Right. Because there's that one piece of the puzzle that's missing for him. Right. So now, if you are indeed the woman that he loves, the woman that he wants to be with, the woman that he has brought this to you and laid this on the table and said, this is what I need.
Right.
Are you able? You know what I mean? Can you do this? So in that moment, it's like, okay, you have a choice to reach a whole nother level in your relationship. You know what I'm saying? Because that, of course, you're not coming back from that.
Right.
There's a whole nother level that you're reaching in your relationship. And then, you know, how does he deal with that? And then when it's dealt with, do you deal with it together and maybe go to counseling as a couple to get through it? Or maybe he's already been through counseling, and the thing is, like, this is just what I want. Like this, I've
healed from my
had the
trauma,
head work,
but
this sexual experience to me is because what did you say? The G spot is the
a male's G spot is in his anal region,
right? The prostate
area, and
right.
They do get stimulation from that, and there's only one way to do that.
Yeah, you have to rub it,
right?
So you massage it, yeah,
right. You have to do some things, and it is on the inside, you know, to be, you know, politically, sciencely correct. It's inside. So in the same aspect for a woman, you know, there's all of these big jokes about, oh, find a G spot, oh, men can't find it and stuff like that. Well, I mean, the same kind of goes for men. We can't find it. Like, we're not equipped. You know what I mean? We're not equipped to reach it, to find it. So I guess it speaks to like you said, just willing to be open and really, really getting a deeper, you know, in tuning in your relationship. But you would definitely have to have some serious conversations, because I know me, and just because of how my own head is always bouncing all over the place, I got all this stuff going on, I would immediately be thinking like, oh my God, I'm not enough. So you would definitely have to have those conversations.
And I would definitely be thinking like, okay, well, you just now bringing this to me. We've been seeing each other for how long?
Right.
What have you been doing other than, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's a whole lot of conversation.
How long you been holding on to this?
Right. There's a whole lot of conversation to be had. There's a whole lot of thinking to be done. It's a whole lot of visiting to be made about the subject.
Then you got to set up, you got to set up rules and parameters, and if you choose.
Well, do you? I mean, are there rules and parameters? I mean, because technically speaking, it's his request. It's something that you're doing to him. So whose rules? And well, I don't know. I guess that doesn't matter. It just depends.
I guess I would be thinking in the sense of in the case of a man who asks and a woman who says no, and then the man counteracts and says, okay, well, if you won't, do you mind?
Right. If this is what I'm going to.
This is what I'm going to do.
Because let's face it, you can't make a request, that type of request, and then your spouse be like, well, no, I'm not gonna be able to help you with that, and then y'all just continue living a regular, normal life.
Right.
Because no, I don't care. That woman is sitting around and she's like, bro, what you doing? Like, what you really, really up to? What you really doing?
The first time I call you and you don't answer,
I'm thinking.
The first time I text you, if I
your
go by
first business trip.
Yeah, I go by your job to bring you lunch and you're not there.
And then all of a sudden, you and Teddy having drinks at night at the bar. So it's and then having said that, that's another fear of, if I bring this up to her, if I try to incorporate her in this, then she says no, she's not with this, then I have this cloud of suspicion constantly over me. I can't move now.
Right.
And that's regardless of whether you're doing something or not, because maybe it is something that you just,
right.
You just wanted to try it. You just wanted to get it off your chest. You don't want to go that cheating route. You don't want to go behind her back and do anything. But now you almost feel like, okay, I don't know, I kind of got to. But then is the relationship over again even after that? Because there's so much clouded suspicion.
There's so
how
much
can anybody really go on? Like, how can you really? I don't know. It seems like from there that everybody gonna need some counseling.
Yeah, we definitely would have. We would definitely have to go get some outside counsel. And I would say, not just a regular therapist, You need somebody who specializes in sex therapy.
And you know,
this is a whole different level
Yeah.
of therapy.
And we are talking about it as though there has to be some type of trauma that has to accompany this request or accompany this behavior. And you're right, it doesn't need to be. It could just be that he's just sexually adventurous and he just wants to try it. You know, that's just something that he wants to try. And it just seems that we're just not open enough to be that type of support to in that, or be supportive in that light. You know what I mean? Because as women, we want to be supported. We want that foundation. You know what I'm saying? If we tell our spouse that we have been sexually abused, we want him to embrace us and hold us and make it go away.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so why can't he expect to get the same thing? Why is it such a controversy for a man to need or want that?
Because in a lot of ways, men are seen as the conquerors.
Yeah.
And to conquer sexual conquest.
But it's just flat out. It's just not a manly thing.
No, it's not.
And so
because I mean, and there's. If you watch any comedian, you know, there's jokes abound about, you know, anal sex or gay men. And it's just like, that adds to the taboo. That adds to the secrecy. And then that adds to these men being on a DL.
Yeah. And then I gotta ask, like, would it stop that? Would, if a man could feel comfortable enough to come to his woman and say to his woman, I want to try this. This is something I've heard about it, and I just want to try it. I don't want to have sex with a man. I just want to experience that. Why can't he come to his woman and say that? If you are all supposed to be on that level, you know what I mean? If you're supposed to be down for your man and you want to please each other, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a situation of pleasing one another, mentally and physically, and you know, spiritually, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't it take away when a man can't feel comfortable enough to come to his woman and just simply say, I don't necessarily even want to do it all the time. I just want the experience.
Well, it's the same as, you know, as I'm thinking about it, you know, like Jeremiah has a song called Birthday Sex. And he says, you know, for your birthday, you want to do it different. You want to do something special. So that lends into, you know, like the special occasion kind of thing of it. And also, as you were saying, and I was thinking, if a man comes to you and he asks you this question, it doesn't necessarily mean that he wants to have sex with a man.
Right. It could just, that's what I was saying.
Like there's totally.
Like, now say for instance, a man that has been, you know, sexually abused by a person whom he cared for, a person whom he loved. He had that experience, and even to this day, there's still some form of love and respect for that individual. You don't cut those things off. You know what I mean? Right. Yes, they did this thing, but in a way that's kind of separate. They still have this admiration for this person. So if this is something that they experience with a person that they love, why would it not equate that if he loves you, that he wouldn't want that same experience with you?
That's deep.
That's a thought.
That is a thought.
And it is deep, but that's deep. Like,
it's deep because then, and you know, we always talk about, you know, being in relationships and experiencing a deeper level of love. I would have to say that would probably be the deepest level of love
for him.
Ever going to receive.
Like for him.
Absolutely. And there are ways to do it, you know, because I was thinking, you know, about things that are like taboo in one way or not in the other way. It's totally acceptable as a woman if I have, you know, a pure romance party and I'm selling, you know, toys and creams and butters and all this other stuff. But how come it's not okay for men to have such parties and buy things like that could pleasure them in other ways that a woman physically cannot, and then you wouldn't need an actual person to have the same feeling. Like that feeling you're looking for, a penetration, doesn't necessarily have to come from another man.
Yeah, you can just get a toy.
Right. So,
and who's to say that that's not what happens? I mean,
right.
And then the other question is like, if as a man you do come to a woman with this and say she is willing, does that stop the DL? Does that stop men? Would that curve so many men from being on the DL if they could get that type of satisfaction at home with their wives? Because that's my question. That's it for real.
I'd have to say so. If you're, well, I mean,
I don't know, because it's dependent.
Ways, yes, and I would say in some ways yes, because if you're just looking for the feeling, the physical
right. If
feeling,
you're just looking for the physicality of it, you can get that at home.
But if you're looking for something else, the human touch, the human connection,
well, no, because you're still getting the human connection aspect of it. You're just getting it from a woman. So then the question then remains: then is it really a situation of you want that feeling, or do you want to be with the man? Is it really that you want to be with a man? Because I mean, think about it. Okay, you have this material, you have this toy, this equipment,
right,
that this woman can use to give you what you want.
Right.
So if you still aren't satisfied with the fact that she's giving you what you want, that she's doing for you what you've asked, and you're still seeking the comfort of men, then it becomes the issue of you want a man. You know what I mean? You are. Excuse me. I would dare say then at that point, you are bisexual. Indeed.
Okay. Well, why you popping out? Let's do some brain science on this real quick. So this says on the DL, straight identifying men speak candidly about their sexual relationships with other men. So a recent national survey released by the CDC revealed that more Americans are identifying as bisexual than ever before. But not only that, more straight identifying men are admitting that they have tried having gay sex. So here's one man in particular. So this gives us some insight into their brains. He said, hooking up with other men to me is a non-complicated way of releasing sexual esteem. It's simply a physical release with no pressure. He says he prefers getting together with other men who are married like him, as opposed to single or openly gay men. And he finds most of his men on dating sites. I seek out other married men for the simple fact that they are in the same boat as me and hopefully can relate to what I'm looking for. I don't want to jeopardize my marriage. Another man can understand that. Another married man can understand that. So here's another one. So he says there are two guys that he sees on a regular basis. One of them is divorced and the other one is a widower, and they both live alone. Therefore, having a place to go to have their encounters is easily taken care of. That's not an issue. So then here's another man. He said, the first time I messed around with a guy, I was 21. He was an older married man that I met on a website. My challenge is that New York City is a very feminine gay city, and that's not my type. I'm into guys who are DL, not being noticed as gay. That's my protocol. When I meet up with other men, we don't talk about our wives at all. Our women are non-existent. Then he said, I would be afraid of telling someone that I was in a relationship with a man because I wouldn't want anyone to look at me differently, as I am an investment banker in my daily life. So because of his stature, probably in his community, he can't let anybody know these things. And then here's a third gentleman. This guy's name is Andrew. He says he's totally straight and he's been married to his wife since he was 21. But he had his first gay experience about 10 years ago. I had been married for 2 years and I wanted to try something different. I messed around with a dozen or so guys since then, and it's often usually when it feels like my marriage is in a slump or it's getting boring, and sex with men actually invigorates me. I prefer men on the DL. I find I have more in common with them and it is easier to make a connection. So, we can learn a lot about men and sexual fluidity and diversity from men on the down low. Some men on the down low identify as bisexual but are not public about their sex with men. Others are completely straight identified and view their sex with men as an erotic hobby, so to speak. So for them, an occasional hookup of getting off, but it does not mean that they want to be with or married to a man. It is simply a sexual release. So for our self-care assignment for this week's episode, based on the Mindfulness Minute and based on the brain science, it's just to embrace something different.
Try something different. Maybe be open-minded about something that you aren't normally open-minded about.
Definitely have to open your mind.
Yeah,
to some new possibilities.
Some new possibilities. There may be a new norm coming your way soon,
and it could be fun.
Well,
I mean, why not?
It would most definitely be different.
It'd be interesting. So with that, you can fly with us and first love yourself, love somebody else in a different way, embrace a different lifestyle. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Anchor, and now Spotify.
Hey!
And you can always email us at flywithusla@gmail.com. I'm Lady Bounce.
I'm Kryptonite, y'all.
And we out.
All right.